Bula Vinaka, everyone! Welcome back! I'm so glad you're here with us today. Come on in, grab your bilo of kava, and just settle in comfortably under the mango tree. Today we're taking a warm, really relaxed and unhurried look at our computer systems. It's an explainer covering something that affects literally every single one of us in this highly connected world we share. We'll be walking through exactly how to manage, upgrade, and troubleshoot your computer's hardware. But we're going to look at it through a much more familiar lens today. We're going to treat your computer system just like a digital village. So let's dive right into this explainer and see how all these fascinating pieces live and work together.
Now, tell me honestly, have you ever opened up a computer case and just felt completely, totally overwhelmed? Just looking at all those tangled wires, the tiny chips, those rigid green boards? Well, you are certainly not alone. But I want to reassure you right now, we are going to break down these components together easily and peacefully. We're going to treat each piece of hardware just like a friendly neighbor in our village community. You see, every single component has a very specific job to do to keep the whole village thriving. And when we look at it this way, well, all that complicated technology suddenly makes a whole lot of sense.
Section 1. Meet your hardware family, safe and green computing. Because just like a real village, we absolutely must start with safety and respect for our environment.
Now, what's really interesting here is the hidden danger of static electricity. Take a look at that quote. Electronics can be damaged by a 30-volt discharge or less. As humans, we don't even feel static electricity until it's much higher. But for our computer components, electrostatic discharge, or ESD, is basically like a tiny, highly destructive lightning strike that electronics absolutely hate. So, to protect our digital village, we just have to follow some simple rules. First off, keep yourself grounded. If you're working inside the computer, pop on an anti-static wrist strap. And please, whatever you do, don't shuffle your feet as you walk across the room. Just equalize the charge safely by touching the metal chassis before you handle any of those sensitive neighbors.
And speaking of respect, another truly vital village rule is respecting our beautiful environment. When it's finally time for our older hardware neighbors to retire, we absolutely cannot just throw them into the landfill. As you can see right here, batteries contain heavy metals like nickel and mercury. Those bulky old CRT monitors, full of lead and phosphorus. Our circuit boards even hold precious metals. So we must always use specialized electronic recyclers. These folks manually dismantle the equipment safely. They sort the plastics and metals, and they extract those precious materials so they can be reused. It's exactly how we keep our islands and our whole world clean. Let's move to Section 2, Growing the Village, Safe and Smart Upgrades. Let's see how we can give the village a little boost to really help it thrive.
Let's look at one of the absolute easiest ways to speed things up, and that's upgrading the RAM. Think of random access memory as the vibrant, active gathering space right in the center of the village. It's where all the daily, active work happens. It's incredibly fast because it literally has no moving parts. It works at the speed of electricity. But as our definition notes, it is volatile. That means when the sun goes down and the power turns off, everyone goes home and all that temporary data is lost. So when you want more space for the village to work without bumping into each other, you add more RAM. Just be totally sure you get the specific DDR type, like DDR2 or DDR3, that exactly matches what your motherboard supports.
Adding this new memory is actually an empowering, totally unhurried process. Once your computer is off and you're properly grounded, you just open up the case and locate the RAM sockets. There are usually 2 or 4 of them sitting right near the processor. To take out the old RAM, you simply release the little clamps on each side of the socket. Then, you take your shiny new RAM stick, line it up carefully and… Karen, be gentle here. You just gently snap the new RAM straight down into the motherboard socket until those clamps snap back to secure it. And that's it. Your village square is now bigger and better than ever.
Now, if RAM is the active gathering space, well, the hard drive is the permanent village archives. This is the primary, long-term storage location for all your data. Your photos, your documents, your favorite programs. Even when the power is completely off, the archives remain perfectly intact. As you can see, they come in different formats like the older IDE style or the newer SATA drives. And what's really fascinating here is that if you happen to use those older IDE drives, there are these tiny little jumper pins right at the back. These pins literally determine the hierarchy of the archives. Setting the pins one specific way makes it the master disk for booting up the computer, while a different setting makes it a slave disk that's merely used for extra storage.
I have to say, installing a new hard drive is a highly satisfying DIY project that anyone in our community can achieve.
First things first, always power down, unplug, and discharge your static electricity. Next, you just slide the new drive right into the housing and secure it nice and tightly with 2 screws on each side so it doesn't rattle around. Then, connect it to the motherboard using either that thin SATA cable or the wide flat gray IDE cable we talked about. Finally, plug in the power supply connector, close up the case, and turn it on. Just like that, you've successfully expanded the Village archives.
But wait a second. When a brand new hardware neighbor moves into the Village, how do they actually know what to do? Well, that brings us to this wonderful quote. Device drivers are like teaching guides. You see, software and device drivers act a lot like the wise elders of the Village. They provide absolutely crucial instructions to the operating system, teaching it exactly how to communicate with the new hardware. Without these drivers loaded onto your hard disk, the new component is basically just sitting there, totally lost. The drivers are what give them their purpose.
Section 3. Waking up the computer, the boot process. Let's take a really nice close look at the morning routine of our machine. The very moment you hit that power switch, a light 3.3-volt burst of electricity wakes everyone up. This right here initiates the post, or power-on self-test. The system is essentially doing a quick morning roll call to make sure the memory, the keyboard, and the drives are awake and responding. If they are, control passes straight to the ROM BIOS, which reaches deep into the hard disk to find hidden files like io.sys and ms-dos.sys. Then, as we move down this timeline, it loads the config.sys to get those drivers set up, and finally, it runs the autoexec bat file. That last batch file is the magic step that brings up your Windows desktop, totally ready for a brand new day of work.
So you might be wondering, how does the computer actually know who is supposed to be in the Village during that morning roll call in the first place? Well, it uses the CMOS. As this slide defines it, the CMOS is a battery-powered chip that maintains the active inventory of all your connected hardware. It's the ever-watchful Village registry. Because it has its very own tiny battery sitting on the motherboard, it remembers everything, even when the computer is fully unplugged. Now, if that little battery dies, the computer gets super confused during the morning post, and it'll show you an error like invalid system setup. But don't worry, the fix is so simple. Just politely replace that little flat battery, update your settings, and Village Peace is totally restored.
Moving right along to Section 4. Connecting villages. Fundamentals of networking.
The physical paths between our different villages are quite often our Ethernet network cables, specifically your Cat5 or Cat6 cables. But here's the trick. You have to use the right path for the right journey. You use a straight cable when you are connecting entirely different types of devices. For example, connecting your computer to a network switch or a modem. But if you want to connect the exact same type of devices together, like hooking up 2 computers directly to each other just to share a file, you absolutely must use a crossover cable. It's a small detail, sure, but a really important one for good village diplomacy.
Okay, so once the path is built, how do the messages actually find their way? They use addresses. The IP address is a 32-bit number that acts exactly like a location map. It tells the network exactly where you are currently located so data can reach you. But the MAC address, that's a 6-byte string of letters and numbers, and it is entirely different. That address is burned directly into your network interface card at the factory. It is your device's unique, totally unchangeable physical footprint. Simply put, the IP is where you are, and the MAC is who you are.
And that brings us to Section 5. Keeping the peace, basic utilities, and troubleshooting. Because let's be honest, sometimes things just go wrong. And when they do, we just have to say, Salva Rauta, that's enough. It's time to fix it.
To keep the peace, we really rely on 5 essential system utilities. You can think of these as the specialized peacekeepers of your system. First, you have troubleshooting programs designed to catch faults early. Then you have antivirus programs, like those you'd find in the Norton Utilities suite, acting as strong guards at the village gates to stop any unwanted invasions. Uninstall programs cleanly remove old files without leaving a huge mess behind. Backup programs, well, they're your ultimate insurance policy to protect your original, precious data. And finally, file compression programs help pack things down neatly to save precious storage space in the archives. Running these regularly just keeps the digital village running smoothly and beautifully.
And finally, I want to share a gentle, friendly reminder regarding hardware troubleshooting. If a test fails or something just doesn't turn on, please don't panic. Take a deep breath. Just calmly check the simple things first. Is there a loose connection? Did you accidentally set the jumper pin on that hard drive to slave instead of master? Is the power supply properly plugged into the component? You'd be amazed, But so often, the biggest, scariest problems in our digital village are solved simply by checking the most basic connections.
So I want to leave you with this provocative little question as we finish up our kava today. What part of your digital village are you going to upgrade, clean up, or fix first? Maybe you'll add some RAM, or maybe you'll just run a simple routine backup utility tonight. Whatever it is, I really hope you feel a bit more confident and a lot more at home inside your computer. Vinaka Vakalevu for spending this time with me, for learning, and for being such a great part of our community today. Take care of your digital villages, everyone, and Mochemada.